In this video, we go over the meaning of materialism. We look into how a spiritual view expands materialism and adds meaning that materialism cannot provide. The meaning of materialism is that matter is the fundamental substance. We as living beings are a result of the interaction between material things. The brain and its physical processes is the basis for our consciousness, free will, desires, and generally that we have a mental state in our life. But how do we make sense of a world that is only made up of physical matter? How can we apply meaning to the pain we sometimes experience or can see other people have? How can life have a meaning if it's only matter reacting to other matter? We do things every day, and where is the thing that is doing something? Where is the kernel in us that steers our life in such a worldview? This video asserts that there is a spiritual or mental world. It is not a result of the physical world, and its existence is not dependent on the physical world. But there's more to it than that. There's something behind both the spiritual and the physical world. We know this from our language as the I. According to the Danish author Martinus, the I is neither physical nor spiritual. It can only be something there is because it has no details. The I is the directing entity in the living being. In this worldview, life doesn't start with the matter. It starts with something living that expresses itself in the matter. So matter becomes the expression of life and not the cause of life. This video goes into more details on these topics. So if you have any thoughts, comments, or questions, please leave them below. So the meaning of materialism is that matter is the fundamental substance and that we, as living beings, are a result of the interaction between material things. Spiritual science expands the materialistic worldview with the spiritual world. Thus it can provide a road to a deeper meaning of life. It goes beyond the materialistic view that life begins with matter. So spiritual science states that there is more to life than its physical parts. There is a mental or spiritual part of the world, which is our thoughts. We experience our thoughts. We can see mental images that are not physical. For instance, you can imagine a beach. That image of the beach is a mental image. The basis for the image are prior experience of physical beaches. Spiritual matter makes up this mental image of the beach that we have. We get the image from our memory. Memory is the ability to bring memories into the awakened part of our consciousness. These retrieved mental images make up the mental image of the beach. And it is something. It is a spiritual matter. So how do we know this? If it wasn't something, how could we perceive it? We cannot perceive nothing. This also means that we have abilities to perceive spiritual matter just like we have abilities to perceive the physical matter. These spiritual abilities are the basis for our thinking, and we use them every time we think. They are not that strange. We are just not used to think about our own thinking as something that exists. We have the ability to change the mental images we have. We can put a person on the beach that we thought about before. We can make it good or bad weather, and so forth. These images of the beach that we create mentally really exist. But they exist as spiritual material. And that is also why we can change them so fast. One of the characteristics of spiritual matter is that it changes immediately. We don't have to move, we don't have to wait for the change of the beach that we are imagining. The change happens immediately. So if there is a spiritual world, what is the function of the brain, which plays such an important role in materialism? From a spiritual view, our brain functions like a radio or receiver for impulses from the spiritual world. We perceive with our physical senses. The physical impulses are transferred via our brain to the mental part of us. Here they become images of the physical world. Thus, our perception of the physical world is actually a mental representation of the physical world and not a physical thing itself. So our physical experience is in some way spiritual, although it's not how we usually think about it. The brain is also transferring spiritual impulses by making spiritual images manifesting in the physical world. It is transferring spiritual impulses from our mental state to the physical world. We know them mentally as plans that we want to execute. These plans are transferred to the physical world. Sometimes our thinking is good and our plans are good and it goes well. Sometimes our thinking is not good and it ends up not so good. So the brain is a bridge between the physical and the spiritual world. This is also why we think that our I and our personality is located in the brain. And that's because that's where the spiritual world comes into the physical world. So it is quite natural that we think of our brain as where our personality is, as long as we think that there is no spiritual world. But there's more to spiritual science than that. Martinus goes a step further in his analysis of the living being. He states that our I, which is the will or the director behind what we do, is above both physical and spiritual matter. The I is non-material, and that is why it's capable of steering the matter. There's quite a long explanation for this, and I have linked a couple of videos in the description where I go more into it, but it's not for this video to explain why it is like that. The point here is that an I above the matter provides a different view than the materialistic meaning or worldview. The will and the direction in the living being doesn't come from the matter. It is the other way around. Something gives life and expresses itself through the material. All material is a sign of life. It is not life that exists from the matter. The two worldviews are opposite when it comes to the basis of the living being. In the materialistic view, the living being is based on matter, and that's where it all starts. In the spiritual view, there is something that is not matter that controls the matter. And you can go out in life and try to see, do I control the matter or is the matter controlling me? So if life has a meaning, what is the meaning of materialism from a spiritual world? I mean, if everything has a meaning, what is the meaning of materialism? The meaning of materialism is that it brings us to a state where we start to ask the bigger questions in life. So the meaning of materialism is that it brings us in a state where we start asking the big questions. The essence of these questions are, what is the meaning of life? Materialism brings us into a state where there is no answer to these type of questions. We are numbers and chemical reaction. And that is not a great way to explain the purpose of life, because if we only chemical reactions, why bother in the first place? The spiritual view on life provides an explanation for a deeper meaning of life. There is intention and purpose behind what we experience, not just from other human beings, but from life in general. The whole thing, the universe, is a big living being that wants the best for us. The best for us can sometimes be painful, because that is the only way we can learn what is right or wrong. And we are in a period of our life right now where we have to learn what is right and wrong. So we do experience pain. The perspective in the spiritual sign can give meaning to life, and especially to pain and suffering. Pain is hard to give any meaning from a materialistic point of view. A spiritual worldview can give meaning to pain. It doesn't remove the pain, but it provides a meaning to it, which materialism cannot provide. The meaning can provide some relief, an easier way through the pain. I hope you have found this video useful and maybe even expanded your worldview a little bit. And if you are interested in more videos and join the journey towards answering life's biggest questions, please subscribe to the channel. And thank you for watching, and see you next time.